I still remember exactly where I was standing when my old life ended. I was in the kitchen, barefoot, halfway through making oatmeal because I was already late for work. My phone buzzed on the counter. An unknown number. Normally, I ignore those. But something, I don't know what, made me pick it up. Mrs. Hale. Yes. This is command. I'm sorry to inform you that your husband, Staff Sergeant Michael Hale, was killed during a training exercise early this morning. For a second, I genuinely thought the call dropped. I couldn't hear anything. My ears started ringing, and the room tilted. My hands went cold. The spoon fell from my grip and clattered on the floor. Ma'am, are you still there? No. I wasn't. Not really. He was killed. I forced out. What kind of training? He wasn't even scheduled for. It was a malfunction, the officer said. Too quickly. Too rehearsed. We'll release more details soon. And then he said all the standard military condolences they're trained to deliver. Service. Sacrifice. Honor. I barely heard a word. When I hung up, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't break things, even though every movie says that's what you do. I just stood there for 5 straight minutes, staring at the fridge, trying to process the idea that I was suddenly a widow. My phone buzzed again. It was Michael's mother sobbing so hard I couldn't understand her. Then his sister. Then 2 officers showed up at my door with official documents, their faces locked in that stiff, practiced sadness they probably wear at least twice a year. They gave me a packet, the casualty assistance packet, which made me want to throw up. They told me I'd have support, benefits, help with funeral arrangements. All the things a military widow gets. I hated every word. But the thing I remember most clearly, no one, not a single person, could tell me how Michael died. Just that it was a training malfunction. That phrase repeated in my head until I wanted to scream. 3 days later, I was supposed to go to the base and pick up Michael's personal belongings. His uniforms, his boots, his notebooks. I felt sick the entire drive. His commanding officer, Captain Rivers, greeted me at the gate. He tried to look compassionate, but he just looked tired, nervous, almost. Mrs. Hale, I'm very sorry for your loss. I nodded, because I didn't know what else to do. They walked me through the barracks. Everything smelled like disinfectant and metal. The air felt cold. Too cold. When we reached Michael's locker, I hesitated. It felt wrong to open it. Like I was interrupting him. Like he might walk in and tease me for going through his stuff. But he didn't walk in. And the silence punched me in the chest. I opened the locker slowly. His clothes were folded perfectly. He was meticulous like that. His dog tags lay over one of his shirts. One of his boots still had mud from the last hike we took together. I touched it and felt a wave of grief so sharp it made me dizzy. Captain Rivers tried to give me space, but I noticed something in his posture. He kept glancing at me. Or rather, at the locker. Like he was waiting for something. I pushed things aside gently, trying not to fall apart. And then I saw it. A folder wedged between 2 uniforms. Not a personal file. Not a notebook. A black folder with a thick red stripe. Classified. Level 4 access. Authorized personnel only. My heart thudded. Families are never given classified documents. Soldiers aren't allowed to store them in personal lockers. And this one had Michael's ID number printed on the inside tab. I swallowed. What's this? Captain Rivers stiffened. It shouldn't be there. He reached for it. And I did something I didn't plan. Something that surprised both of us. I pulled it away first. It was in my husband's locker, I said. I'll take it. Mrs. Hale. It's all I have left, I snapped. I'm taking everything. He stared at me for a long second. I didn't blink. I didn't breathe. Finally, he exhaled. We'll need that back. You can talk to me about that later, I slammed the locker shut and walked out. I didn't open the folder until I got back to my car. My hands were shaking, but I forced myself to look. The first page wasn't a report. It wasn't a training schedule. It was a roster. Operation Silent Meridian. And right under it, near the top, was his name. Hale, Michael A. Field active. Field active. Not deceased. Not training. Not anywhere near the malfunction I had been told about. I blinked hard, thinking I was misreading it. But the words stayed. Clear. Unmistakable. Terrifying. My husband hadn't been marked dead. He had been marked active. On a mission I had never heard of. A mission that was classified. I flipped through the pages. Everything else was redacted. Paragraphs blacked out. Names missing. Pages sealed with clearance codes so high I didn't recognize half of them. And on the last page, in bold letters, unauthorized contact will compromise mission integrity. I stared at those words until they blurred. Unauthorized contact. Meaning, me. Meaning, I was someone they didn't trust him to speak to. Why would they lie to me? Why fake his death? Why tell me he died in training when he was obviously deployed? Unless the operation required him to be erased. I felt my stomach twist. If they told me he was dead, then someone had gone through serious effort to make that believable. Someone signed papers. Someone made phone calls. Someone looked me in the eye and lied. I clutched the folder to my chest, heart racing. I suddenly felt watched. Exposed. Small. And a thought hit me so hard it felt physical. If they faked his death, what would they do if they found out I knew the truth? I didn't stay in that parking lot long. I started the car and drove, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I didn't know where I was going yet. But I knew one thing with absolute clarity. My husband was not dead. And if the military thought I was going to just sit quietly and accept their lie, they didn't know me at all. People think grief ends when acceptance arrives. But mine sharpened into something else. An instinct. A soldier's wife learns to trust her gut the same way her husband trusts his weapon. And when I saw Ethan's name on that classified manifest, my gut screamed one truth. He was alive. And someone wanted him dead. On paper. I didn't cry. I didn't faint. I didn't fall apart. I stood there in that cold hallway of the records building, holding a file I wasn't supposed to see, realizing the world I lived in wasn't the one I thought I knew. The first thread. I didn't sleep that night. I lay awake with the file burned into my brain. Operation Redwood. Personnel. Lieutenant Ethan Cole. Status. Active. Active. Not deceased. Not MIA. Not retired. Active. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard the officer's voice from months ago. Ma'am. He didn't make it. Did he lie? Or was he told to lie? The question gnawed at me until it cracked something open inside. By morning, I was done being the quiet widow. I pulled on Ethan's old army sweatshirt, the one he said made me look strong enough to take on Congress, and I drove straight to the only person I knew who had connections deeper than the Pentagon basement. Marcus Hale. Ethan's old teammate. The man who didn't show up to his funeral. When he opened the door, he froze, like he saw a ghost. No. Like he knew why I was there. I held out the classified page. Tell me, I said, or I swear to God, I'll go straight to military press and burn every career behind this. His jaw flexed. And then he whispered. I knew this day would come. The truth they buried. We sat in his living room, blinds closed, phones in the microwave, TV volume up, every paranoid trick in the book. Marcus finally spoke. Your husband didn't die in training, he said. He was pulled into a deep cover operation. Something blacker than black. No paper trail. No contact. No safe return guarantee. I stared at him. So they told me he died? They had to, he said. To protect you. To protect him. To give him clean detachment. My hands curled into fists. I was pregnant, I said quietly. I had our daughter alone. He missed everything. Because someone told him to vanish. Marcus swallowed hard. He didn't want to go, Anna. He fought it. They forced his hand. Why? What he said next nearly killed me. Ethan uncovered something during a stateside assignment. A leak. Someone high-ranking was selling intel. He reported it. And the blowback was immediate. They had to remove him from everything. Hide him in plain sight. So they killed him, I whispered. Just not physically. Marcus nodded slowly. He's alive. But he's trapped. And if you go digging in the wrong direction, so will you be. The room spun. But grief had already taught me how to breathe underwater. I steadied myself. Where is he now? Marcus hesitated. And then he slid a burner phone across the table. This is all I can give you. A location ping. One chance. One shot. If you go, you can't undo it. The journey into the lie. I packed a bag like I was going on vacation, kissed my daughter's forehead, and told my sister I'd be gone for just a couple days. In reality, I was heading into the kind of restricted zone where civilians don't accidentally show up. The coordinates led me to a fence so tall it could scrape the clouds. No signs. No gates. No lights. Just silence thick enough to choke on. And then, movement. 2 silhouettes. Armed. I raised both hands. I'm not a threat. I'm looking for Lieutenant Ethan Cole. Their guns snapped up instantly. One of them barked. Turn around. But the other froze. Then he whispered into the radio clipped to his vest. She's here. My heart hammered so loud I swear the ground vibrated. Footsteps approached. Measured. Familiar. And then I heard a voice I'd buried with a folded flag. Anna. Everything inside me broke open. He looked older. Rougher. Scarred in places I couldn't see. But he was Ethan. My Ethan. My lungs collapsed around a sob I'd tried to bury for 2 years. I ran to him. He grabbed me like a man holding his own resurrection. Why did you come? He whispered into my hair. Because they buried you alive, I cried. And I refuse to mourn a man who still has a pulse. He pulled back, eyes glassy, shaking his head. You shouldn't be here. They'll come after you. Let them, I said. You're my husband. Not a ghost. Not a file. And not property they get to erase. For the first time in 2 years, he smiled, broken, tired, but real. We don't have long, he said. But I can tell you everything now. The plan they never expected. 4 hours, we sat in the shadows of that hidden compound while he told me everything. Names, threats, betrayals, the corruption he stumbled into. He wasn't hiding. He was being held. Used. Silenced. And then we decided something together. Something reckless, something dangerous, something so purely us. We would burn the truth into daylight. Expose the operation. Expose the traitors. Expose the ones who stole his life. Together. A soldier and his wife. Not grieving. Not hiding. Not running. Fighting. The reckoning. The day we leaked the documents, the military scrambled like someone had lit a match under the Pentagon. Arrests. Investigations. A full intelligence sweep. And in the middle of it all, Ethan walked back into the world. Legally alive again. Free again. Mine again. He held our daughter for the first time. He cried. I cried. Even she cried, confused by the chaos but sensing something sacred. And as I watched him rock her, whispering apologies she didn't understand, I realized something. They tried to bury him. But they forgot something about buried things. Sometimes, they grow.